He is coming. Cover your butt.
I probably don't need to explain who Armoured Skeptic is, but in case you don't know, Armoured Skeptic, or Greg as I'll be calling him for the rest of the video, is a YouTuber. Unlike what his name would suggest, Greg does not follow evidence to its conclusion. Instead, he has already made up his mind and he's looking for evidence to back up his conclusion. We'll talk about this more later. For now, let's talk about this video that Greg put out. Greg is criticizing, well, no, complaining about? No, whining. Yeah, he's whining. Greg is whining about an old video that made the rounds on Facebook a couple of years ago. The video is rather benign. It's got a good message about how all people are people, and we shouldn't let little things like skin color separate us, since at the end of the day, we're all just people. The video is a little stupid, not harmful stupid, more like silly stupid, but at the end of the day, the video is benign. It doesn't really hurt anybody. Now, I bring this up not to tell Greg what he can't or can't put on his channel, but I bring this up because at the end of that video, Greg has this to say.
Those who live in ivory towers on private islands and tax havens, they've got us running in circles, playing whack-a-mole with an endless barrage of manufactured outrage played 24/7 on CNN and Fox News. We're being conditioned to never point our finger up, but instead at each other for all of our misfortunes.
You can't complain about manufactured outrage when you have just spent 10 minutes whining about a benign video. Well, at least you can't without looking like a hypocrite. Greg is going out of his way to get upset about a 2-year-old video that, while stupid, is hurting no one. This is not the first time that Craig has decided to get upset about something benign. After Bill Nye came out with his new show, Bill Nye Saves the World, Greg didn't take it so well. In his review of that show, Greg was very upset during an episode talking about alternative medicine.
But then something happens. Something unexpected. Something that will completely and irreparably change the tone of the show. A man named Prashant gets up on the stage, almost as if he was going to perform a stand-up routine. But instead of making me laugh, he made me angry. He made me very, very angry.
What could possibly be in a science show that offended Greg so much? Did one of the guests promote alternative medicine and it went unchallenged by Bill? Did Bill himself get basic scientific facts wrong? Worse still, did Bill promote alternative medicine? Well, no. Greg was upset that a stand-up comedian made a joke. Mr. Manufactured Outrage is upset about a joke. Remember earlier how I said that Greg has already arrived at his conclusion and now he's just looking for evidence to back him up? Here is where this happens. I won't play the whole segment of the episode where Prashant does his comedy routine, since I don't want a copyright strike. Instead, I would urge you to go watch the routine yourself. You can find the stand-up routine in Season 1, Episode 2 at about the 20-minute mark. The comedy routine has one message it's trying to get across. Don't use Asian mysticism to sell unregulated crap.
Asians, stop selling unregulated remedies with no scientific basis, and white people, stop using Asian culture to sell unregulated remedies with no scientific proof. Let's just get back.
A rather good message, if you ask me. But you'll notice that Prashant said a naughty word. He asked white people to stop doing something. Gasp, the horror. Since Greg has already arrived at the conclusion that the world is out to shit on white people, he was instantly offended. But since the message of the comedy routine was a good message, Greg needed to manufacture a reason to be outraged. Now, instead of the message of the routine being don't use Asian mysticism to sell bullshit, Greg changed the message to white people don't appropriate Asian culture.
Prashant lectured the entire white race on how it's unacceptable to use Asian mysticism because it's from a different culture. What? Listen, I know that it's tempting to do this. I know how so many people think that they've figured out the formula, but this needs to end. If you think that you're that one person in the entire universe who's figured out a way to talk down to an entire race of people and lecture them on how to behave without coming across as a racist asshole, stop. Because you haven't figured it out, it's impossible.
Greg has not just gone out of his way to get offended, he has even made up what he's offended about. Nothing says manufactured outrage like this. Greg manufactured out of whole cloth a lecture in the middle of Bill Nye's show. He took a joke during a comedy routine and decided he was offended and turned off his brain. Instead of rewatching the comedy routine to see if it really said what he thought it said, Greg turns it into a lecture. Greg even says this about Prashant.
Get this though, Prashant says that he doesn't believe in Asian mysticism, and he says that he doesn't like Asian mysticism. In fact, he says that he hates it.
When in reality, this is what Prashant had said.
I know what you're thinking. Indian guy might be into alt medicines and stuff, but I actually hate them. I especially hate how they're marketed.
Prashant hates alternative medicine and how they are marketed. Nothing, absolutely nothing that Greg says happened in this segment actually happened in this segment. Greg was offended that Prashant made a joke about white people, and he decided to manufacture something to be outraged about. This isn't the only time that Greg has manufactured outrage.
Bill C-16. This is one you've probably heard of because it was made famous by Professor Jordan B. Peterson of Toronto University when he publicly refused to comply with it before it even passed. C-16 is a bill that prohibits people from misgendering or using the wrong pronouns when addressing people who identify as trans. Seems fine at first, like any other social progress bill, it sounds very appealing even, but then there are other implications with a bill like this, and a new doorway that's been opened to make free speech illegal.
This clip is from Greg's video on Bill C-16, the same bill that made Jordan Peterson famous, the same bill that has passed and has resulted in not a single person being arrested for using the wrong pronoun, the same bill that resulted in the Canadian Bar Association releasing a letter explaining how the bill did not infringe on people's free speech. In this video, Greg once again jumped to conclusions, and once again, rather than taking a closer look at the evidence, manufactured outrage. Greg is the very problem he warns us about. He manufactures outrage, and he makes a living doing it.